revolution! Intifada revolution! Intifada revolution! Palestine!
And if we were to give the racist, fascist, genocidal Israeli regime any modicum of credit, it would be that it had at least been open about its intentions from the outset of this latest assault on Gaza. They have bragged on various media outlets about making Gaza unlivable and how we are witnessing in real time the Gaza Nakba. Israel has been pretty upfront about their intention to wipe out and or cleanse the land of its indigenous population, as is the intention of all settler colonial projects. The so-called war on Hamas is a front, a convenient excuse to accelerate its ultimate solution to the Palestine problem.
The Shaykh says and reminds us of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, that you will find those people with the highest enmity and the highest hate towards the believers are the Jews. And those who associate partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-Yahud and al-Mushrikeen. They have the most hate towards Muslims. It comes from what they believe in and what's there in their books. They believe that those guys or them people are the chosen nation by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Resistance is an obligation in the face of occupation. Resistance is an obligation in the Resistance is an obligation in the face of occupation. Resistance is an obligation in the face of occupation. Resistance is an obligation in the face of occupation. Ceasefire.
As you said at the start, we still don't know. It's incredible that we still don't know the details of what actually happened on October 7th, and yet there was this ferocious genocidal response to it. I just think that's unfathomable, that you could launch that type of war without the facts of the matter. People are accusing me all the time online, for instance, like just a quick example of being an apologist for rape and beheading babies. And as you pointed out at the start of your show, there's no evidence. There's no evidence for that at all. So if it wasn't so horrific, solution impossible. And the cherry on top had to be Joe Biden this week, having the audacity to tell us he's concerned about indiscriminate bombing of civilian targets in Gaza, while at the same time stepping up the already eye-watering military aid to the genocidal regime to continue its war crimes with impunity. There would be no genocide without the US. There would be no ultranationalist, jumped-up right-wing Israeli regime without the US's support and protection. And now we clearly see what the global South has been telling us for decades. The US is nothing more than the world's bully. And they must stand shoulder to shoulder with the monster they created and be held equally accountable for what will surely be recorded as one of the most shameful episodes in the history of the West.
Israel and the US need monsters. Without them, they don't have any justification for their killing sprees. Without a monster, Israel's genocidal response to October the 7th is indefensible. So, was a monster on the loose on October 7th? Initial reports certainly seem so. 1,400 killed, 200 plus taken hostage, bloodthirsty targeting of innocent civilians at a music festival, reports of pregnant women being sliced open, 40 beheaded babies, reports of some of them even being baked. No, it was hard to imagine a militant group in the middle of an existential do-or-die operation taking the time out to bake a baby, but howsoever. These acts are almost beyond human comprehension. The Holocaust was even invoked, with October 7th officially declared the worst attack on the Jewish people since the Nazis. The Palestinians were now effectively Hitler. But pretty quickly, the monster's features became distorted. The 1,400 killed was revised to 1,150, including 400 militants. So scorched were the bodies that Israel miscalculated its dead. But who scorched the bodies? Max Blumenthal's excellent research now indicates that the burnt bodies were most likely caused by Israeli Apache hellfire, firing at anything that moved in the chaos, including its own citizens. See the so-called Hannibal Directive. Human rights lawyer Nora Erekat contends that the militants knew nothing of the music festival and that the revelers were most likely killed in the crossfire between Hamas and a panicked, humiliated Israeli occupation force. There's still no hard evidence of any beheaded babies, baked or otherwise, dissected pregnant women.
And 5, 6, 7, 8. And 5, 6, 7, 8. They really hate this one, so let's say it really loud. And from the river to the sea. Exactly. From the river to the sea. From the river to the sea. From the river to the sea. Thank you, and free Palestine.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
Greetings from Ireland, comrades, brothers and sisters. There really are no words to describe the savagery, the barbarism of Israel's genocidal assault against the people of Gaza. This is mass murder, slaughter, genocide happening in front of the eyes of the world. And Rishi Sunak and Joe Biden and Keir Starmer and every government that has given Israel impunity has the blood of Palestinians on their hands. These people have no humanity. None. Their claim to represent democracy, civilization, international law has been exposed as a horrific lie. This is the naked face of imperialism and of colonialism. But it's not just ceasefire. If there was any doubt, there is none now. The state of Israel has no place in the civilized world. Can you say that a regime capable of this slaughter has a place in a civilized world? How can you say a regime that was built on terrorism, on ethnic cleansing, on decades of occupation, of the siege of Gaza, of the relentless persecution of the Palestinian people, has a place in the civilized world? It has none. No right to defend itself any more than apartheid South Africa had a right to defend itself. Would anybody seriously say that? Israel, like apartheid South Africa, is a criminal oppressor state. And it must be brought down. It must be dismantled. If the people of Ireland had the right to resist colonialism, if the people of Algeria had the right to resist colonialism, if the people of Vietnam had the right to resist imperialism, if Black South Africa had the right to resist apartheid, Palestinian people have the right to resist the apartheid colonial regime.
That a state that is capable of doing this is a psychopath.
Yes.
A A state that is capable of doing this is a criminal. It is a barbarian. It is a mass murderer. And to talk of peace, you can only make peace with human beings, with people who have some humanity. You cannot make peace with a psychopath, with a mass murderer, with a savage. And that is what the state of Israel is. Blinken went to Israel in the last couple of days and he gave the green light to these psychopaths to restart the genocide. Israel is the United States. Israel is the monster created by the United States and Britain before them. They are capable of any atrocity, any savagery, and surely we should have known that from the Iraq War. The only thing you can do with a state like this is resist it and bring it down. We brought it down. Yeah. The black South African people resisted. They were right to resist. They were justified in that resistance. And eventually the world woke up and rose with the people of South Africa and dismantled that filthy, racist regime. And that is what has to happen with the filthy, apartheid, racist, colonial settler regime that is Israel. Yes. We have to do what they did in South Africa. We have to do what they did in Vietnam. We have to do what they did in Algeria. We have to do what we had to do here in Ireland. Yes. Resist them. Because the same people who tried to exploit a horrific, terrible incident to whip up racism and fear and division and wreck our city were the same people who are cheerleading Israel's massacre in Gaza. Yep. So it is in all of our interests to stand together, not just to stop the horror being visited on the Palestinians, because if they can do it to the Palestinians, they can and will do it to any of us. So this is a fight for humanity. This is a fight for humanity, for a civilized world against barbarians and psychopaths who care only about power and money and are willing to sacrifice their humanity for those things. So we've got to rise up. The only answer to this is intifada. Revolution, as Asil said, the collective revolution of humanity to take our society back for humanity.
Apartheid, because that's what the Israeli system is, doesn't have a right to defend itself, any more than apartheid South Africa did. Illegal occupation doesn't have the right to defend itself. Ethnic cleansing, or a state built on ethnic cleansing, doesn't have a right to defend itself. The people who have the right to defend themselves are the people who are victims of those things. Who are the victims? Who are the oppressed here? The Palestinians are. They're the ones being ethnically cleansed. They're the people at the wrong end of apartheid. They're the one under illegal occupation.
Isn't it the fact that the law of return, which is the basic law of the Israeli state, is a racist apartheid law because it confers rights on Jews that it denies to Palestinians? It allows, for example, if I was Jewish and had never stepped foot in Israel, I could claim citizenship there tomorrow, but 6 million people whose origins are in what you now call Israel, who were forced out in 1947 or 48, do not have that right. Why do you deny them that right? And why do you give that right to other people who have no connection whatsoever with the land, whether you call it Israel or whether you call it Palestine?
5,000 children now have been butchered. Now, none of them are responsible for whatever people may claim did or didn't happen, and I don't know what happened exactly on the 7th, but what I do think is ridiculous. Is ridiculous. Is ridiculous.
Order.
Is ridiculous.
Condemn Hamas.
No, in my view,
Order in the chamber. Order in the chamber.
I will not condemn people resisting. The answer to this horror? What is the answer to this horror? So what is the answer to this horror? What is the answer to this horror? It is to dismantle the apartheid regime that systematically discriminates against Palestinians on racist grounds. It is to dismantle the settlements. It is to allow the Palestinian refugees expelled in 1948 the right to return. It is to stop the ethnic cleansing, the ongoing ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. And, you know, and should this be a radical thing to say, of course it's completely unacceptable to Israel, what about we have equality? What about we have equality from the river to the sea for Jewish people, for Muslim people, for Christian people, for people of no religion? Just have equality. In anywhere else in the world, would we accept any less? Of course we wouldn't. But somehow there's an exception made for Israel, that it's okay to have a state that is based on an ethno-nationalist hierarchy, supremacy. It is literally ethno-nationalist supremacy. That's obnoxious to anybody who believes in human equality.
And I was talking today with scholars. We were at a meeting organised by the Rohingya people. The Rohingya people, also victims of a genocidal attack in Myanmar. And today they organised an online international rally for Palestine and for Gaza. And at it, there was a speaker from Gaza, an academic, along with other academics who are specialised, including Jewish academics, who specialised in genocide. And they said that this is a textbook example of genocide, the dehumanisation of the Palestinians. And they pointed out, particularly the academic from Gaza, he said, this is unique. We have seen terrible genocides in history, in the Congo, of the Armenian people, of the Nazi Holocaust against the Jews. And this is another episode in that dark history of genocides now being perpetrated against the people of Gaza.
Okay, I'm going to say something controversial because it has to be said. It has to be said.
Go on, Richard.
For the last 5 weeks of the massacre and genocide being conducted by the State of Israel against the people of Gaza, that has been justified under the name of so-called self-defense. Now, I am very, very proud to be in a minority of TDs who on the 18th of October voted against a government motion saying that Israel had a right to self-defense. Because that narrative has been used to justify genocide, a massacre and a slaughter that has claimed the lives of 11,000 Palestinians and 5,000 children. And I hope that the people who voted for that will reconsider that narrative of self-defense. Because you see, what we should have known, and we most certainly know now, Israel is not a normal state. It is an apartheid state. It is a state built on the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians since the day it was founded, with blood and murder in 1948. Decades of ethnic cleansing, occupation, brutal murder of Palestinians, week in, week out. Week in, week out, the seizure of Palestinian land, the seizure of Palestinian territory,
the 16-year-long siege of Gaza, reducing Gaza long before October the 7th to a state of permanent humanitarian crisis. So, I say, or I ask you, does a state that is built on ethnic cleansing have the right to self-defense? No. Does a regime based on apartheid have the right to self-defense? No. Does a regime that is based on the murderous, brutal occupation of another people and their land have the right to self-defense? No. But who does have the right to self-defense? Who does? The Palestinian people have the right to resist and fight back against apartheid, against ethnic cleansing, against occupation.